In this special limited series, I'm taking you behind the curtain of the 2025 Bendigo Business Excellence Awards. Join me as I spotlight the winners of each category and discover what makes them truly exceptional.
Bendigo Jockey Club.
Paul Scullie is the CEO of the Bendigo Jockey Club, and they are the winners of the Events and Tourism Award category for 2025. Paul Scullie, thank you so much for joining me in the studio. It's an honour to have you here.
Caleb, thanks for having me. It's unreal. It's a pleasure to be here. I haven't done a podcast before, so for
number
me,
one podcast.
I am making my debut today, so which is fantastic. But looking forward to it.
I love it because I reckon, some podcasts. My first podcast was an online one, and I had no idea what was going on, and it was it was kind of blow in, blow out. But we've given you a real easy one to start with. 25 minutes. It'll be super smooth.
You'll look after me, mate, and that's off to a good start. So let's roll with that. So
good, Paul. All right, so let's start with the Bendigo Jockey Club. Obviously, the winner of the Events and Tourism Award this year. But I want you to tell me, what is the Bendigo Jockey Club for those who aren't aware of what the business is?
Yeah, so look, a lot of people see us, obviously, and it's what we are, and the heart of what we do is racing. We are a race club, but I think for us, and in particular during my journey over a very short period of time in the role, is that it's so much more than just racing as well, and I think that's been probably the exciting thing about this process and obviously the awards process was that, it's, I suppose, exposing everyone to what we exactly do. And we race 23 times a year, each year, so that nearly, once a fortnight. We also have horse training at our precinct 6 days a week for the entirety of the year. So it's utilised heavily from a training perspective and a racing perspective, where we are one of the leading racetracks in regional Victoria, and sort of alongside, Geelong as well as with that sort of number of race meets. So and we race, there's sometimes even race more than some of the metro clubs. It's quite a, it's quite a big operations. We have jump outs, we have trials, all these things. So from a racing perspective, the utilisation of the precinct is huge. And, the only days it really is, from non-training is on a Sunday, to be honest. And so it's really, that is at the heart of what we've done and what we do, which is great. We support about 42 local trainers, and we have probably about 120 odd horses trained every morning there. So, so like it's, it's a big operations and big sort of numbers. And, but as I explained, we're so much more than that, and that's probably was something we'll touch on, obviously, the award shortly. But for us to be in a position where we're able to secure the Events and Tourism category at the Bendigo Excellence Awards was that we do provide an entertainment precinct, an events precinct, and I think we're synonymous with events like Caravan and Leisure Fest and Caravan and Camping Leisure Fest and Red Hot Summer Tour concerts and, a range of, we had Lost Trades over the last few years. So a vast array of events and functions as well. So it's huge in its operations and, to be able to share that with people is quite fun.
Yeah, it is massive. And like the nature of some of the race meets you've got, like the Bendigo Cup being one of the biggest, that you need to be able to facilitate a lot of people, right? And to host a lot of people.
Absolutely.
In a lot of different spaces, right? And so the thought then is, the obvious thought is, well, what are you doing with those spaces outside of the big events and the big race meets? And you've been able to, like over the history that I've been aware of the Bendigo Jockey Club, being able to host lots of really huge events, some of which you've reeled off. And then there's also been, it's the odd wedding here and there hosted in some of your function spaces. Tell me, what did in the awards presentation or the application process, what did you really focus on that you think made Bendigo Jockey Club stand out than more than just a race?
Yeah, we took a really interesting approach and credit to my team who, did the bulk of the work, to be honest. They were incredible with this process. But there was a couple of things that I felt that was really beneficial about it was as businesses, the reflection piece is really critical. You know, like, so for us, we probably sometimes don't spend enough time on reflection. We're constantly looking forward. But for us to capitalise on what we have done well and what we haven't probably done so well is an opportunity to reflect on that. And this process actually drew that out of our team. You know, and we got together, we had meetings, we discussed it, we talked about all the different events that we did, and more importantly, we then took a really key focus on personas. So we actually our presentation was about providing the judges with the different personas and the people that do actually come to our track. And you touched on it there before. We had the brides, we had the grooms, we had the rock concert attendees, we had the race goers. And what it really exposed was just such the wide demographics that we do attract to our precincts. And for me, that was a really great piece to do. And it allowed us to really drill down in terms of, well, from a marketability perspective, you know, what target market are we looking at? And that became a little challenging because it was such a broad range. But the process itself really allowed us to look at, obviously, and provide to the judges an opportunity to say, hey, these are the people that come to our track. This is what they look like. And you use AI and these sorts of things to develop these personas and to show what it was. And we think that, you know, obviously that was a great start because it did expose the demographics. But I think for us, it wasn't necessarily a focus purely on the racing. It was certainly on the economic contribution that we provide to Bendigo in particular through these major events that we do host. And you know, we've got some really, really exciting, you know, concerts coming up early in 2026, which we can't wait for. But I think more importantly, it was really that opportunity, as you say, the weddings, the wakes, you know, the 21st, the 18th, as some of those small ones. A lot of our community groups, sporting, you know, who come along and have presentation nights and things like that as well, widely utilised in a different sorts of ways. So for us, it was a great reflection piece and one that we always found, and we were a finalist last year and missed out, but to secure it this year was really rewarding, and just that reflection was really important to it all.
Yeah, tell me a little bit about, from a business development perspective, how do you go about attracting major events through to the more business to consumer kind of weddings and smaller events?
Yeah, look, it's interesting because there are so many wonderful precincts in Bendigo. You know, you know, everyone does, you know, really well, and I think for us, it's been a really big focus. And I spoke about this sort of, you know, leading into the Bendigo Cup in particular, and the question asked, well, what does it make it successful? And I sort of had really three key ingredients, which was, you know, really hospitality. You know, is got to be good. You know, good food, good drinks. Great people is another thing as well, in particular, and as I said, and a good vibe or a good feeling and a good location and place, and so those sort of combined together really create a great night out. And people, I think, gravitated to that. We don't do in fact, we do a lot of advertising in regards to the precinct itself. But for us, I think word of mouth's been incredibly good, and these concerts in particular, we've successfully delivered Red Hot Summer for numerous years, and we've been able to introduce 2 new concerts early in 2026. So, and that's been off the back of the success of some of these other concerts we've had and hosting major events, and noting that we have plenty of parking or we have plenty of space, you know, in terms of square meterage, and you know, so I think, you know, word of mouth is a really key thing, but we get a lot of support from our local community, and we're indebted to them for that, because, you know, as I said, they've got many choices they can make in terms of where they go, but for them to choose us and to come along and have it there is, you know, it's pretty special.
Yeah, it is really special. You touched on a few things that part of which good people are the hospitality staff and hospitality processes, and making sure that people feel welcome and well served is one huge thing. The other one is the environment and the spaces that you have, and making sure they're well kept and maintained. There's a lot of outdoor space, right? How do you go balancing from a team perspective, like what goes into the operations behind making sure that when people walk in there, they feel like it's a space that's been well kept, and they're in a luxurious, in a premium space.
Yeah, look, it's a really good point. So there's a couple of things to it. From a hospitality perspective, we don't have on-site caterers. So the beauty about, and I think it's also a real benefit, is that we're able to engage with our local contractors, and, you know, with regards to food in particular, and that really gives an opportunity to a lot of to businesses to basically partner with us to come aboard and for us to provide opportunities for other local businesses.
Yeah, nice.
I see that often in a lot of things, even in the major concerts, a lot of our local businesses, the opportunities it gets, whether it's from parking attendants or whether it's from, ticketing or whether it's through food, drinks, whatever it might be, hospitality. And those opportunities are really important, I think, from that perspective. In regards to the grounds, it's something we pride ourselves on. We have got a mixture of heritage buildings there. So we have Heritage Grandstand and a couple of other heritage listed buildings on site. So the maintaining of some of them can be a little more challenging. There's no doubt, and we have a lot of them, and then you mix that with obviously trying to keep your facilities in a position that actually suit the current day and age, so a lot more digital. How can we actually be better off, better aligned in terms of our digital opportunities that we provide on site and everything else as well. So you've got to be constantly evolving the sites. But more importantly, we have a team, of about 15 permanent part-time on our grounds, in particular. So the employment opportunities we provide for local people is quite significant, and probably goes unnoticed. But for us to maintain our training facilities, but also the grassed areas, and grass can be mowed off in this time of year in spring. It's often our roses are synonymous, the yellow roses and things like that. But the gardens all around. So there's a substantial amount of work that goes into maintaining the precinct to a high standard. Yeah,
15. That's a high head count for a garden kind of maintenance team, but you're right, most people wouldn't probably recognize or realize that. You think of what other business has that many in a team to upkeep the spaces and site management. Like, that's huge.
And look, we are the third biggest users of water, as an example, in the whole of Bendigo. So exactly. So we talk with Colin often. So in terms of maintaining our precincts and the training tracks to a certain standard, we have to maintain them to a certain level, which protects the animals, which protects the participants, protects people coming on course, or at least provides, rather than a dust bowl, it provides them with a great opportunity for any concerts and things like that. So we are a big player in terms of that game, and so we've got to have the team then to support that with the grasses growing through the roof. So it's but we are really proud of that, and that's really important that we are providing those opportunities for people to apprenticeships. We've got an apprentice at the moment, people to start out their journey, whether it's through turf management opportunities and things like that. We're really big on providing those opportunities for young kids, generally young kids, to learn and to progress to future opportunities in their professions.
Yeah, so good. Paul, tell me about your role at the club and what that looks like day to day.
Yeah, it's quite funny. So obviously, as CEO of the club, it's I'm really proud of that. And I'm a Bendigo boy and have been a member out there for numerous years myself, and it's quite interesting that, a lot of people say, you'd be coming into your busy period now. And there's no doubt, leading into events like our Beach Party Race Day and Bendigo Cup, we have two major race day events where we, across the 2 days, have gotten upwards of sort of 10,000 people on course, and to have a small team of 4 or 5 admin staff who are effectively pulling this all together is quite incredible. So
it's amazing.
So it certainly is busy, but there's no real rest for us. You get through, you take a bit of a deep breath post Bendigo Cup. For me, it's really going to be looking at the strategic direction of the precinct. How does the precinct, look in 10 years' time? What are we, and I think, once again, going through this process, we really do want to be seen as an leading events venue. We want to be bringing great content for the people of Bendigo. And so for me, it's a focus on that opportunities, and as I said, we've recently announced Good Charlotte coming to Bendigo,
epic, right?
Which is off the charts cool. Like, and I was saying yesterday actually to have Joel Madden, coming out and saying, I'm going to be at the Bendigo Racecourse. It wasn't on my bingo card of things that was going to happen. But in all honesty, like, those sorts of things is a real buzz, and I think the diversity of what we provide at the precinct is something that and from a day-to-day perspective, no one day is obviously the same, and we know that in any business, but we're not just about racing. There are so many different components that go into it, and that's what I love about it. It's just such a diverse sort of industry and business in particular. So
tell me about Good Charlotte. How do you get Good Charlotte to come to and host them?
Look, I won't take any credit. I can, and I'd love to sit here and take some credit. Maybe it was the precinct. Maybe it's the way we've hosted these events in the future. And anecdotally, that has certainly been, the feedback that we've got. But look, a credit to obviously our team in particular, with their, look, in all honesty, the promoters have come to us and asked us about the space. And I think it's about providing the space available. We're looking at 20,000 people for this event. Now, if you said to me I can get 20,000 people at the Bendigo Racecourse, I'm going, oh, maybe can that happen or not? But it really can, and we know it can, and we put measures in place to ensure that they can. As small things like parking, you don't think about it, but parking is really important to the whole user experience. So huge. We've got that opportunity to do so. So the Bendigo Showgrounds have done it really well as well. We've got some great precincts like that, and we work. We always in close collaboration with them. We've got to work together as businesses to continue to attract these, these great bands. But look, in all honesty, I can't take any credit for it, but it is incredibly exciting. It is. And the three concerts, Red Hot Summer, we bring Paul Kelly early in the new year as well. We've also got Park Waves with Parkway Drive and Amity Affliction, which is a completely different genre again. So we've got three very clear different genres that will attract a different demographic to the track again. And we're excited by that. It's really cool. Yeah.
It is really cool. How do you do any work in cross-selling or leveraging when you have a lot of people there, giving some sort of awareness of your other offerings?
Look, it is, and I think that's always important. I think people may only ever come out to Bendigo Racecourse for Bendigo Cup Day once a year, and not knowing that we race another 22 times throughout the year. Same again with these concerts. It's exposing, and same with all these events that we spoke about before, your weddings and things like this as well. Exposure to the track's really important, and it's. I don't care if they come along to any of our race days. Just coming to enjoy the space is really important to me. Bring your chair. If you want to come to a race day, bring your chair along, bring your rug, sit down and just enjoy a relaxed day out under the tree. And it's just exposing those people to those opportunities. So look, there's certainly, we don't go heavy on it because it's really important that we're promoting that relevant event, and Good Charlotte sells itself, in regards to that, growing up in that sort of era and having, those sort of tunes. It's quite extraordinary. It's unbelievable. But
90s legends.
But it's really, really cool. But look, as I said, we certainly try and capitalise on those opportunities to continually try to attract more quality content to Bendigo and obviously helping the Bendigo economy.
Yeah, you mentioned that a couple of times, the economic kind of development lens. Do you work with the city much in terms of being able to provide any data on that? Or?
Yeah, look, it's a good question. Data is something I'm continually to try to delve into. So I'd love to throw some fancy figures to you, and I won't pretend to anyway. But like thoroughbred racing alone, just as isolating that alone, it contributes about 84 million to the Bendigo economy, just purely simply through thoroughbred racing, the racing. So, and that's through the training and everything else that goes with it. So there's it's a big contributor to Bendigo. You then add events onto this as well, and so events like with Good Charlotte in particular is with 20,000 potentially people coming to town. Let's say 15,000 of them come to town, or 10,000. It really it's hard to try and accommodate them all. So the process in terms of how we manage that's really, really important for the user experience. But generally speaking, and I mentioned this on the awards night in particular, is that I'm indebted to ensuring that we continue to bring these back to Bendigo, these events to Bendigo, because it will benefit every other business that was sitting in that room on that night for the awards night. Yeah. Whether it's through our eateries or through our accommodation or whatever it may be, the contractors, the electricians, the plumbers, all these types of things, it really has a big impact on their businesses. And for me, that's really important. And for us to continue to be a leading events venue, we need to do that.
Yeah. Too right. Let's talk a little bit more about the awards themselves. You went through the process last year and were a finalist, but didn't get the top prize. This year, took it out. What advice would you give to another business that has their eye on taking out a category?
Yeah. Look, it's a really good question because we took it ultra seriously and we spent a lot of time on it. And you'll hear probably often throughout your time doing these podcasts was that there was a lot of time and effort that goes into these things. But I spoke about reflection before, and it was really important. But to really delve deep into some of those key components, you've got to go to the process. No, these judges know nothing about your business. They know nothing about what you do. So you need to put it out on the table and not expect that they to know. To tell them literally in that small amount of time that you got as much you can about your business, but focusing on data, which was really important for us as well, but also being creative with it all, and that was, we're not experts like you guys in the creative industry, but certainly to pull something together to allow us to, that was entertaining and that they could actually feel as though, and we use, as I said to you before, personas in it. They could visualize the people that were coming to our precincts. And the wide demographics that, as I explained as well, was really important. It's not just we're attracting 18 to 25-year-olds, all year round. We are generally from babies right up until 90-year-olds, even older again, some of our members who are in their 90s, they're the sort of demographics, so wide-ranging. But, I think I really implore people to go ahead with this process. It's really rewarding, even if you don't become a finalist and or, a winner. And I was genuinely blown away. It was such a rewarding feeling. And, to go up against, Bendigo Heritage Attractions, they're an incredible organisation. They do such a great job with tourism in Bendigo as well. It's a great relationship we have with them as well. And that's really important with it all as well. But I think for us, it was such a rewarding process. But in particular, I felt overwhelmingly exciting to win it. It blew me away, and it was just rewarding for our team. I was so pumped for them all. Yeah.
What do you think the impact on business has been of winning the award?
Well, straight away within the week of it actually occurring, the overwhelming feedback from people, emails coming through, phone calls congratulating us. We have a little trophy sitting on our front desk as people come in. You've got to play on that. It's really important. As an industry as well, we so through the racing industry as well, through Race Victoria, the support we got from them and the exposure we got from them across Victoria as well, not just in Bendigo, was unbelievably, overwhelming as well.
Wow.
Because once again, we can't just rely on racing to continue, from a product perspective and from a precinct as a business in particular. We have to look at diversifying, and we have done so. And I think that's the blueprint for a lot of other clubs moving forward, and to be rewarded for that and acknowledged for that was overwhelming.
Yeah, you really would be leading the way in a structure, a model of business, because racing, as we know, is taking a bit of a hard hit with the many other options that punters have to bet on. And so what I see as being really impressive of what the Bendigo Jockey Club is good at is that diversification and looking well into the future and thinking, how are we going to thrive when there's been a really hard hit to our traditional market?
Absolutely. And spot on. Thank you, because it's exactly right. And that's what strategically moving forward, what we're going to do, and we'll continue to do, providing some great content for the local Bendigo community. It's really going to be critical. I'm really excited by that.
Yeah.
I want to take everyone on the journey with us, and in particular our local businesses and our community with us. If you haven't been out there, I implore people, come and say g'day. Come out and enjoy one of the relevant events that we throw on, whether it's a market or whatever it is that, there's all sorts of different things that we provide, to come out and just enjoy it, because it really is. It's a beautiful precinct for starters, but hopefully, it'll bring some good things to Bendigo going forward as well.
And how can people engage? Like, where can people see what's coming up at the Bendigo Jockey Club?
Yeah, so look, there's a lot, obviously, through our relevant channels, so whether it's through social media, but in particular on our website as well. We're constantly updating, obviously, the availabilities of major events in particular on there as well. So you can get in touch with us at any stage, emails, phone, whatever it might be. A great friendly team that they can always talk to. But pretty excited about that future.
Great. Paul, thanks so much for spending some time with me. I know you're got a busy schedule ahead of next week. So, yeah, good luck for that.
Appreciate it.
And we can't wait to see what Bendigo Jockey Club does next.
Thanks for your time, Cal. Appreciate it.
Hey, thanks so much for tuning into this episode as part of the limited series Team Up with B Bendigo and Hebron Films, featuring the winners of the 2025 Business Excellence Awards. There are 13 episodes in total in this mini-series, so if you're at all curious about the other award recipients, then head over and check them out. We also have a new episode of Remarkable Regional Business dropping every fortnight, so please follow us wherever you get your podcasts. And finally, if you know someone who has or runs a great regionally based business and has a remarkable story to tell, then I would love to get them into the studio and tell it. You can dob them in at hebronfilms.com/podcast.